This is the Overdue Homework Podcast.
Welcome to the show, everybody. This is Drew, and today is a very special Halloween episode. Trav and I were invited to join some really cool dudes, Jacob, Willis, and Grum, on their podcast, the Triple Falls Podcast. They actually run a production company here in Mankato, Minnesota, and they take local content creators and artists and give them a platform to talk about what they do and hopefully spread their footprint and reach some new audiences. So, like I said, luckily enough, they decided that we were worthy of going on their show and doing our thing on their show. It was a whole heck of a lot of fun. We actually took the day the Earth got really screwed up by the Angry Beavers, and we kind of redid it with them. We expanded on it. We took it to the next level, hopefully. And they joined us in critiquing and discussing the themes and ideas behind this episode. So go find those guys on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Check them out. They were lots of fun to do this with. So here we go. Have a listen.
Hello and welcome back to this week's episode of the TF Cast. This is an extra special Halloween episode, and I'm your host, Willis Stout.
Hey, Grum here as well. It is October 19th here in the solarium, and my name is Grum.
I'm your host, Jacob Bases. Today with us, we have Trav and Drew of the Overdue Homework Podcast here to talk about their production and what's going on over at the Overdue Homework Podcast. Drew, if you want to introduce the show and what you do, tell us a little bit about what's up.
Sure. Well, like you said, I'm Drew Morehouse, and
I'm Trav.
that's how we normally start out the show, and this is the Overdue Homework Podcast, right? So it's our fun little podcast to talk about 80s and 90s media. We're both children of the 90s, children of the 80s.
Yeah.
So it's just an exciting thing for us to relive our childhood. Nostalgia is kind of a drug, right?
Sure is.
Makes you feel good. So why not explore this nearly midlife crisis that I'm having and revisit all those things, and really dig into them and enjoy them again.
And I was born in 89, so I missed out on a lot of the 80s, so it's kind of a chance for me to go back in retrospect. He's got a little different view on some of the things that I didn't see, so.
Yeah, that's kind of like the impetus behind this whole thing was like finding stuff that either I haven't seen or experienced, and the same thing with Trav. And giving homework and making sure that we do experience those things from the decades that we both love.
And hypothetically, the listeners haven't heard or seen the show or played the video game, and this is a chance for you guys to do it too.
Yeah, and
Cool.
We really want, listener interaction. That's what we want the show to be. We want the listener to be interacting with our show by doing the homework along with us. Listening to the episodes, getting the assignments, taking the 2 weeks to do it because we release every other Monday.
Yep.
And you can always find those episodes at overduehomework.com. That's pretty easy to find those episodes. We're pretty new, really. We just finished episode number 14.
14.
Nice,
Yep.
nice.
Yeah, so we're excited to get the news out there about our awesome podcast.
Sure. It sounds like a cool way to explore some of that old media.
Yeah.
Right away, I wanted to get it out there too. What's the format for the homework? So you're giving an assignment, and then people will have to watch media, and then it'll get talked about on the next episode.
Basically, yeah. It's just
better
we
way to
assign a movie or an episode of a TV show, or if we've done like Nicktoons or Cartoon Network, it's maybe multiple episodes since they're only 20-minute episodes. And then video games, we're still trying to find our niche because we don't video record. So we did one that tied into our Batman movies in the beginning, and we've done one more, and still working out the kinks in that one. It seems like we have less to talk about, and it would be a more fun experience if we were doing what you guys do in video records.
Yeah, that's where we're kind of at an impasse with that, where we want to get more video game content out into the podcast, but it's been difficult for us to really figure out how to do that. So we're working at it, that's for sure.
But I think with movies, we've really found our footing, and we're going up from here,
Yeah,
basically.
those go the most smoothly for us for sure.
Okay. And we'll get into it in a little bit, I think, but we were given some homework for this episode to watch an episode of the Angry Beaver. So where did that one come from? If you could give brief context for like the homework that was assigned there for this episode and what people can expect for the later half of this show.
So this episode was part of a Nicktoons Halloween suite that we did on our show. And we were putting together an episode specifically for Halloween. So I literally went and found Halloween episodes, and we went through a list of them and chose the ones that we thought would be the most interesting. And this one really sticks out compared to many other Nicktoons Halloween episodes. It's an atypical Nicktoon, I would say, to say the least, I guess.
Cool.
And we did a previous episode with Rocko's Modern Life, Angry Beavers, and Ren and Stimpy, where it wasn't Halloween. So we did the same shows and just picked Halloween episodes for this one.
That first episode, we were looking for controversial Nicktoons episodes, and I think we drummed up some pretty good ones.
Some pretty good ones.
Oh, did you do the Fly one then from Rocko's Modern Life?
We did the No-Tell Motel one, where they go on a road trip. You know, that episode was highly edited after its original release because of the references to prostitution and things like that. So it was a fun episode to do, that's for sure.
Thank you.
Going back to like kind of where you started on the whole podcast project, when did this go from conversations or just, you know, enjoying talking about this kind of thing to, well, we're going to start organizing this friendship more directly into a production or podcast?
Well, we became friends at our day job, and we realized that we had like a lot of similar interests. And I broke my leg in 2019 playing hockey. And during that time, Trav shown himself as being a great friend and came over and visited me numerous times while I was laid up in the basement. And having hours every day to figure out something, it's when I really realized that I wanted to, instead of just going to work every day, to really produce something and produce something that I wanted to produce and do something that was fun for me besides work. And that's where I got the idea. Fast forward 2 years later, I finally got the guts up to invest in some very cheap podcast equipment. And I came to Trav and said, I want to start a podcast. Let's figure it out.
And here we are.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we were already hanging out and playing video games, and we watched through, like, Dragon Ball Super together, and we waited out overnight to get the Super Nintendo Classic at GameStop when that came out. So from there, we just kind of made sure we hang out every few weeks or so, and now we have a purpose beyond hanging out.
Yeah, and, you know, doing this, too, like, allows me to leave a legacy, I guess, of some kind, and put my voice out there and in the records for future generations if anybody cares to listen to this in their family. So
it's crazy from the first episode being so nervous that a million people are going to listen to this within the first couple days, but we're like super excited to be at almost 600 downloads.
600 downloads
since May 1st.
Yeah,
so
it's very exciting for us.
For us, that's huge.
Yeah, that's huge for us for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. What do you like best about the show? And we talked about sort of like an exploration of old media. Like what parts are you most excited to like show up and chat about for you individually? What are you most into?
For me, so Drew's the fact guy. So I'm basically just watching the movie, and I write up my own notes, things I want to throw in or things I think are funny or best lines, but he's hitting me with all the things I'm curious about. So he starts it off with that, and I'm learning that for the first time too. So it kind of opens up some good conversation for us. And I've always watched TV shows and movies on repeat, so this just gives me more of an excuse to do what I've always done, basically.
Surprisingly for me, I was never what you'd consider a great student, but the research aspect of this has been the most entertaining, the most rewarding part for me is finding this information. You know, the internet can be treacherous to say the least, I guess, with your facts that you can find, but That's been the coolest part for me, is learning about these things that I've watched on repeat, like Batman, and learning new things about them and sharing that information with other people. It's been really fun for me. I've really enjoyed that.
And so far, for the most part, I haven't seen most everything we've done. The Nicktoons I've seen, we did Ed, Edd, and Eddy I've seen, but most of the movies, like the original Batman movies, I had never seen, so that's kind of why we started with that. I had never seen Top Gun, so for me, it's a lot of brand new homework like the listener, and Drew's kind of getting to rehash things he hasn't watched in 20 years, you know.
Cool.
Yeah, Batman was a joy, that's for sure. Batman was a joy.
I think over time you're going to kind of get like, it seems like one of those products that'll really grow as you go on, because you're going to learn things, you're going to connect things that you're learning about all this different stuff. So I think it has like a lot of really good room to grow into something really cool. And especially with the whole, like, you're getting your listeners engaged by asking them to do homework. I think that's a really awesome idea.
Yeah, and we're encouraging emails, which is overduehomeworkpodcast@gmail.com, and taking any topic ideas. I mean, there's 20 years worth of content. There's certainly things we're excited to do, but we're pushing anything up the list that people want to listen to. Or
I want to. You should do one on Hellraiser.
For sure. You brought that up, and I've never seen that. So again, I'm always excited to do things I haven't seen. So.
Intense, to say the least.
Yeah, I just watched the new one, so I'm pretty. I've seen the old one a bunch of times, and it's very, very different. So good there. But my question that I was going to ask before I got off on that tangent was, do you feel like you're part of the archival process when you're looking for some of this kind of information online that either does or doesn't exist? I know a lot of like news and kind of like shows from. I mean, a lot of it's probably before the 80s, just wasn't well documented, or some of it's even hard to find now. I don't think movies are that way, but where's the information coming from when you're digging online?
The information's coming from sources like Looper or Cracked or something like that. They'll have articles on these movies that we've assigned, and I try to pick through what I can find in there and find interesting, unique facts. And it's just digging through the internet. And especially, like you said, some of these like TV shows, like these Nicktoons from the 90s, finding any information besides just who wrote and produced and who did the voice acting is great. Like, it just makes my job so much easier if I can actually find some real information instead of having to. I'll have to like dig at it a different direction if I can't find any information, where I'll try to find the references from within the show and then try to find information based off of that to just bring some sort of fact to it to make it factual and interesting for somebody to listen to, as opposed to just going scene by scene and talking about what's going on the camera.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I even just the small amount of Googling I did for this episode of Angry Beavers that we're going to talk about in a little bit, I realized how difficult it would be to find real information on a single episode of a cartoon from that era.
Maybe we should transition into that. Maybe we could have Drew lead us.
We could. Is there any other like any other bits about the podcast specifically before we get into that you want to address or like talk about?
Just basically, is we're always looking for suggestions on what we should do for assignments, and we do have a list into the near future. But anything, we want to make what people want to hear, basically. And if I've never seen it, I'm definitely excited to get into things that I've never seen and I haven't experienced.
Yeah, I'm excited to assign him something that he hasn't seen. But the episodes we have out, we started super Batman heavy, so all 4 of the original Batman movies. We did a video game roundup with all the games associated with those movies. And then we did a final Batman tetralogy roundup with our final opinions on all those movies. So we started super Batman heavy in retrospect, but it was really fun for us. And then we moved on to Nicktoons. We did Top Gun, which I had never seen. Mm-hmm. Then we did Dumb and Dumber, Ed, Edd and Eddy, Cable Guy. And we just had the Halloween Nicktoons episode release a Monday ago. And we've got The Shining coming up next Monday. And then we've recorded Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as well. So
Yeah, every other Monday. If I didn't mention that before, every other Monday we want to bring more content to put inside those other Mondays, but the day job gets in the way,
yeah.
What before we jump into the next piece, what sort of angle do you like to take when exploring the media? Are you contextualizing it with modern culture or modern media, or just discovering the archival history of what led to the creation of that? What kind of angle where are you curious?
For me, mostly it's the angle of how it came about. We kind of have a little bit of a running gag in the show where if it happened after the year 2000, it doesn't exist within the confines of this podcast. We do talk about that stuff periodically, but it's mostly in the introduction or in the outro at the end of the show where we will talk about that stuff. But mostly it's the history of the media that we're talking about that we try to go for.
Cool. Explore the depths of it. So people, if people are curious about the history of a media, they could recommend it, and you'll do some research for them.
Yeah, and even the silliness, the odd stuff that can go on behind the scenes, the things that you may not necessarily think about, if you can find that type of thing about a specific media.
Yeah, I think that's a cool angle too, Willis. If you have a piece of media you don't want to look way too into, you can just ask these nice gentlemen to do it right here.
It's got to have been created between
Perfect
1980 and 2000. Cool. Yeah. Welcome to the Triple Falls ad read. This is where I tell you a little bit about what we offer, because we're a production company. We offer video services, production stuff, sound, lighting. You could even have a podcast that looks like ours if you wanted. Speaking of the podcast, if you'd like to connect with us and ask us questions, send us guest recommendations, or even sponsor an episode, connect with us at cast@triplefalls.org. Well, I'm ready to get into it if everyone else is.
I'm gonna take my first peek at these, and
we have notes, guys. Look at that.
Yeah, I didn't expect notes, but I really love this.
Wow.
Hand typed by
on a
typewriter. So please excuse the lack of punctuation and the grammatical and probably spelling errors. Well, are we ready to get on to that homework review, Trav?
Let's do it.
All right. So Nicktoons Halloween, we're specifically talking about the Angry Beavers. This show was created by Mitch Schauer. Mitch Schauer, he worked on great shows like Garfield and Friends. Everybody's a fan of Garfield and Friends, I'm assuming.
Oh, for sure.
What's not to love about Garfield and Friends? The Ren and Stimpy Show, Rocko's Modern Life, and Hey Arnold. All of those shows are popular with us. This show stars Daggett, Doofus, Dag, Beaver, voiced by Richard Stephen Horowitz. You might remember him from a little show called Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. He was the voice of Alpha 5.
What? Yes.
Figured you guys would like that one. We also got Norbert Foster Norb Beaver, voiced by Mitchell Whitfield in the pilot, Nick Bakay in the series. Nick Bakay is a very familiar face, I'm sure, if you've experienced any 90s media. Parts in Seinfeld, in Living Color, where he was a writer. Very underrated show in Living Color, if you haven't experienced that show. Coach, the perennial 1990s television show Coach. And then most famously for most of our listeners, probably most of your listeners, Salem the Cat in Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Very, very recognizable voice.
Yes, best character on the whole show. I just rewatched it.
Nice.
He was also a writer on that show. But the specific episode that we're going to be talking about today is The Day the World Got Really Screwed Up, and that came out October 26th, 1998. So as it goes to our podcast, it's definitely towards the end of its lifespan, but that's okay because Angry Beavers is the best.
Yep.
So it was season 2, episode 10 is considered a 30-minute special because it wasn't broken up into 2 12-minute segments. Animation direction by Patty Shanagawa and written by Mitch Schauer, starring some people worth mentioning like Adrian Barbeau as Toluca Lake. Anybody familiar with C-Lab 2021?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Does anybody else remember the Jazz Cola episode where the captain gets trapped underneath the Pop Machine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does anybody remember what he becomes at the end of the episode? An Adrian Barbobot.
Oh.
She has a very extensive filmography, and one thing that's very notable for 1990s is she was the voice of Catwoman on Batman the Animated Series. That was a favorite of mine growing up, Batman the Animated Series.
Definitely.
It was appointment television. I remember my father grabbing me, sitting down on the couch and saying, "We got to watch this show." And I was like, "Okay, we're going to watch Batman." And fell in love with that show immediately.
Wish my dad did that.
My father was a Batman fan, to say the least. And then we got Jonathan Hayes as Man Cervante and William Schallert as Dr. Kautiki, which I don't understand his name as Dr. Kautiki. They don't say it in the episode once. They just call him Doc.
Doc.
Dr. Kautiki, whatever. He was that dude was in a million things like Quantum Leap and, of course, Murphy Brown. Tom Kane as Oxnard Montalvo. Some great voices in Duckman. Duckman fans in the room. Duckman fans in the
Played
room.
the video game.
Watch the show. And then a favorite, I'm sure, of everybody's, Johnny Bravo. Episode breakdown time.
Let's do it.
All right. This is Mitch Shower's favorite episode. And it's also the first episode to use live action footage, so that's kind of cool. It's a play off of The Day the Earth Stood Still. The episode is a title reference to that 1951 sci-fi movie. I've never seen it, but did some research today, and it is a very similar plot to this Angry Beavers episode. So let's get on right into it. We get that pretty cool live action opening, that special Nicktoons Presents, and then we're in deep space. So I'm going to read exactly what the narrator had to say. I'm going to take a little sip of water here. On October 30th of last year, the day before Halloween, our reality as we know it was invaded by an object from another dimension. Step 1, enslaving the manservant, Man Cervante. Enter Norb and Dag, trick-or-treating on the day before Halloween because, that makes a lot of sense. So what's the deal with that dude being hauled away at the beginning of the episode?
Yeah, I was immediately confused.
So do you think that he went more crazy because A, there's costume beavers at his door, or B, there's costume beavers at his door trick-or-treating the day before Halloween? Which really set him over the edge? Which one was it? Which one do you think it was?
And also what's the other one? The non-dag, what's his name?
Norbert.
Yeah, his costume's so creepy. The way his face is like so far out in front of him.
Yes, it is creepy. You are right. It is creepy.
The toe I love, though.
I thought that was a spleen.
It has a toe attached to it.
Yeah.
So a
Yes.
thumb attached to
An
it.
opposable thumb
Yeah.
attached to the spleen.
Yeah, like the one that it's crawling towards him later. We'll get to that.
It's not unusual in this universe for animals to speak.
Nope, I wouldn't suspect so because the beavers are standing right there as they're hauling him away. So.
Yeah, but people do note that they are beavers and that's different than normal.
Right.
Yes.
Later in the episode.
There's a lot of times where they do interact with humans quite a bit, and they usually tend not to even notice that they're beavers or bring it up.
If anybody does bring up the fact that they're beavers, it's not them.
Yeah.
It's always somebody else, and that is evident in this episode also. But I guess it's just a way to move the plot forward. Is this guy laughing hysterically and being hauled away?
Basically.
So I guess that's it. It gets Dag to promise that they'll give up the ghost if the next house doesn't work out, right?
Right.
But luckily for us, the next house happens to be Oxnard Montalvo's, right? Luckily for us.
Yeah, and those teeth when he was laughing are stuck in my head.
It's very, very good. I like that a lot.
I was also confused. I thought I should know who Oxnard Montalvo was, based on I am not very familiar with the show at all. So I was immediately trying to figure out why do I not know this name?
The only reason you would know his name is because he's a character in Angry Beavers.
Okay.
So he's just a parody of all those B-movie type actors overacting,
and they're
super
always
masculine.
up late watching these B
Yes.
movies, and he is apparently their favorite actor from these
Yes.
B movies.
Yeah, and we've already mentioned the spleen with the opposable thumb, but Oxnard is the star of the spleen with an opposable thumb, which is referenced in a different episode.
Yeah.
Do quite a few episodes revolve around them seeing something on TV and like emulating it?
I don't know if it necessarily revolves around them seeing stuff on TV every episode, but there's, I would say, yeah, I think you're right. A fair percentage of episodes do revolve around them watching TV.
Yeah, the pilot episode right away has them staying up what they think is incredibly late, but it's not actually late.
Yeah, exactly.
Watching TV.
Exactly. The Beavers do end up saying in unison, Oxnard Montalvo. And then Norb says, do you know what this means? And Daggett says, we know how to read addresses. So that was a pretty good little gag right there. I like that one a lot. He says, it means you might get your candy and the autograph of your favorite B-movie actor, Oxnard Montalvo. Also, there's an interdimensional object that has landed. So what a premise, right? The Beavers sneaky weaky into Oxnard's. Now that they're in the house, the Beavers are admiring all the set pieces from their favorite B movies, like the slime beast from The Evil of Darkpool. They look so real because they are coming to life, exactly, right?
Yep.
And then up there, it's Keylor, the serpent demon. He looks as though he could fly right out of here, and he does. And then the claws of the immortal Gollum. It's the only Montalvo film the Beavers haven't seen. Hard to imagine, I guess, is what he says. And I think that's them referencing the fact that it's a new character for them. Norbert seems to reference the fact that it's like a non-canon episode almost. Like he's like, imagine that, at multiple times during the episode. So
Right.
I think that's a pretty funny little gag there with Norb. The Beavers are confronted by Manservante immediately, and he says, welcome to the home of Oxnard Montalvo. I'm his manservant, Manservante, which is one of the funniest things ever.
Must have been born into it.
Yes. I was actually really trying to figure out a real name that you could shorten up to man, and I couldn't think of a single name that you could actually
Manuel?
Hey, there you go. You thought of it immediately. But Dag, he gets right to the point now, doesn't he? He says, you got any candy? Real subtle, Dag, real subtle. It turns out that the interdimensional object that crashed into the backyard wants the Beavers. I've never felt such feelings of reality. Such power should be mine. That's my best interdimensional object impersonation, so I will be continuing to do it. The Beavers are still only interested in Oxnard or candy. Don't mind my brother. Actually, we are wondering if we could possibly meet the best actor in the whole world, Mr. Oxnard Montalvo. So the Beaver lingo,
It's great.
It's great. I absolutely love the way Norbert talks throughout any of the series. It's the best thing ever. It makes me
Daggett has the sound effects.
Yep.
Norbert has the
struggling with that Oxnard mask that you love so much. The Beavers avoid being enslaved by Manservante. Dag punches him in the crotch and knocks Manservante down the stairs for the first time. At
that point, I asked Jake if he understood that joke where the zombie got punched in the nards, and he said he did get that one.
He got it.
That one is right at my level.
That one is straightforward joke. Norb's had enough though, and he takes off his costume. What about the candy? The candy. You need a costume to get the candy. You also need a trick-or-treat bag. Dag realizes that he doesn't have his candy bag anymore, but he sees it down the flight of stairs, and Manservante just fell down. But his bag is empty. Where's the candy? Did you say candy? Candy. That's one of those things that has stuck with me my whole life. Like, that was something that I brought to this episode before I even watched it again, was the saying candy. That was something that stuck with me from my childhood. Now the Beavers get to see Oxnard and Toluca Lake and the doctor, but Manservante has other plans, and all three of them go tumbling down the stairs again. The name of the actress Toluca Lake is a reference to a district in Los Angeles in California and to an actress, Veronica Lake. She was a fairly famous B-movie actress. She was active from 1939 to 1955, and she had one film in 66, and then her last film was 1970's Flesh Feast, which was a very, very B movie. Didn't watch it, but I saw the trailer and looks terrible. Oxnard, look, amazing, pointy little animals, and they're coming this way. So it's interesting. The beavers just fell downstairs, but now they're rolling into the same room that they were just peering into moments ago. Suspension of disbelief is something that you have to bring into cartoons, and when you watch something 10, 15 times, it becomes hard to avoid some of those things in movies and especially children's cartoons. Suspension of disbelief, you have to keep that nice and sharp when you're watching these cartoons over and over and over.
I thought they were arguing. I thought they were fighting with Manservante when they looked into the door.
He grabbed them and pulled them back. He grabbed the spleen costume, and then they went flying into him, and then they went rolling down the stairs again.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's how it happened.
So I just thought that was interesting that continuity wasn't on their minds, I guess, which is okay. Manservante, he brings to life the immortal Gollum and tells to destroy the human infidels, destroy them until they're dead, but bring me the little pointy creatures. The master demands it. He says that in such a creepy way in the episode. I just couldn't get past that every time.
Does.
The master demands it.
There's also some like weird symbolism when he was like on his face, like something like flashed over his face for a while.
So that is actually the interdimensional object, and I think the animation, maybe the quality of whatever it was put on. Where did you watch this? Did you watch it on Paramount Plus?
I don't think I
course
watched it on an extra legal service.
Okay.
A very, very legal service.
Cinema,
one of those.
cinema a la bootleg. But I think that it's actually the master's face that's over the top of Cervante when the beavers are talking to him, or when he's talking through him to the beavers. It just is hard to determine what it actually is. I did pause it on the DVD that we have, and when it wasn't illuminating, so I could actually make out what the picture was. So it is the alien's face. So it does look very odd, though. You are correct. It looks very weird. We're back with Oxnard now, and he asks, "What do you creatures want?" I love the weird B-movie acting. I don't have a lot of experience with B-movies, except for Mystery Science Theater 3000. So I was never the type of person to sit down and watch a B-movie just for the comic effect or the historical nature of these pieces of cinema. So I can appreciate the weird B-movie acting, though, as a comic device in this episode. We get the immortal Gollum bursting into the room. It's fantastic. A mere statue, alive and walking. Dag destroys the immortal Gollum because it's standing on his tail, right? Look out, the little fella's gone berserk. Or maybe not. Oxnard, the little creature, did it. I'm a beaver. You're kidding. He's kidding, right? Excuse me while I talk like that. The group is in a pickle. Picture the largest gherkin you've ever seen, then magnify it 1,000-fold.
That's a big pickle.
And then the doctor, I'd like to show you a short film. I found this to be a pretty funny gag throughout the episode. He does it 3 times, and then Daggett gets to show his own film at the end. So, but we get the lowdown to figure out what's going on with the master or the interdimensional object that he's been feeding on our reality. This is like the only time we actually get to see the movie that he's produced, that this doctor has produced in a matter of minutes since this is all has come down, right? He's had this thing locked and loaded, maybe? I don't know, but...
it's a reel-to-reel, so he must...
he had it locked and loaded. He's prepared for all situations. But we find out that the being is feeding on his reality. I like the little alien in the movie where it said the arrow's going in, to really make it easy for Oxnard, I'm assuming. The alien is feeding on all of our thoughts. Oxnard manages to figure out what's going on. Someone must be remembering the monsters from my films. The alien is bringing their memories. And then Oxnard's banging his head, and you see Toluca, she's tapping her nose like he's on it, like the charades thing. He's on it. And then the doctor has the book that says "Be Psychic," and he's got his arm up, and he's like, "Oh, come on, you can do it. You can do it." But he does manage to figure it out, so that's a good deal for Oxnard, I guess. And he goes, "Hey, you two, stop." And then we get to see the alien outside. "I can feel the strength of all their realities beginning to course through my being, making me larger, making me stronger." And then they flash to Toluca for some reason. "The alien is becoming larger, becoming stronger." Why she does that accent, I will never understand. Like, was that Adrienne Barbeau's best attempt at impersonating the actor doing the interdimensional object? Or is she an Arnold Schwarzenegger fan? Or
One of the two.
one of the two for sure.
This is where I really started to not understand what was going on. Like
you know,
because this is the black and white starts coming across now, right?
Yes, that's the alien feeding on their reality because now he's become larger and stronger. So he's.
There was also some creativity stuff, like it's coming from their imagination.
Yes,
Right.
And the beavers stay in color.
They do stay in color. I did notice that also. Oh, yeah. That's an interesting point that you make, and you say it that way. It makes sense to me that the beavers are probably imposing the black and white on everything else then, if it's coming from their minds, right? They view all these objects and all these actors in black and white because they only see them through the television screen in the black and white movies. So that makes a lot of sense, actually. I just assumed that the master was consuming their reality.
Interesting.
No,
yeah, and there was a comment earlier on about imagination too on like page 2, and it made me think. Like I was like, when does this imagination stuff start? I mean, but also, I mean, at the end, they're just like, we'll get to it. Go on.
Like you said, everything turns black and white. I said I like yours a lot better. I like that idea a lot more. That it's what the beaver's imagination is putting on to everybody. I like that a lot. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I like that a lot. But now the statues, they are attacking the group, and Oxnard tells Toluca to run for it. She runs straight into a wall. She is accident prone, to say the least.
Yeah.
Do you want to read the next line since you have a really good Oxnard?
The doc and I will hold them off as long as we can hold them. Thank you. And then we get some great bits with Oxnard comically getting thrown around the room while the doc is working on some kind of invention. And, he's like, I can't hold him off much longer. He's fighting the tentacles. He's getting thrown across the room. Did you notice that they put a bit of the animation on repeat during that scene? And it's and it's just one of those things that I'm sure sticks out like a sore thumb after you view it a few times, too many. But I was like, reusing that animation, which pretty common cost-saving thing, I guess. So
it stuck out to me. The invention that he worked on is like a light bulb and a string. It did not look useful.
No, it did not look. Well, he does just end up calling some sort of part service, and he's like, "So I need a credit card to be able to order these parts?" Oh boy! But with Oxnard and the doc dealing with all the monsters, Toluca and the beavers are on the run and being chased by the crawling spleen with the opposable thumb. For me, this next sequence is easily the best gag in the whole episode. It's just the best, with Toluca falling down. "Oh, my ankle!" And then the beavers run back to save her. And they start running again. She falls down again. "My other ankle." The beavers run back for their third time. "Oh, both my ankles." And then Daggett, obviously exasperated, "Why don't we just cut the darn things off?" Toluca and the beavers do make it outside, only to be chased back inside immediately by Keeler. They're pretty happy to be outside for the time that they are. So, and then obviously a catchphrase from Daggett, "That was close." That's a famous one from Dag there for sure. Manservante, no luck for them, is there to confront the group immediately. he tells Toluca and the beavers basically what's going on, and you got to blame those beavers. It's the master feeding on the beavers' vivid imaginations, feeding and growing, becoming ever more powerful. I am growing ever more powerful. Huh? I am growing ever more powerful. Oh. Toluca slams some sort of mask, helmet onto Man Cervante, and he makes no attempt to take it off whatsoever. He just kind of stumbles around for a little bit.
Just rolls with it.
Yeah, just rolls with it. But the master at this point, he's really wrecking up the place, and Oxnard tries to catch a falling Toluca, but misses. So good job, Oxnard. Gotta work on your damsel in distress skills, I guess. With Cervante on the attack, Doc tells Oxnard to hit him with the mindulator thingy. So Oxnard does just that and throws it at Cervante. Another really good gag. It's absolutely hilarious that he's futzing with this thing, turns it on, gets ready, and then he just chucks it. That's
It works.
it works. Congratulations, Doc. You did it. Me? You're the one who knew how to use it. So I guess just throwing at him. And then Daggett says, is it just me, or was that the stupidest thing we've ever seen? And that was actually Norb that said that, I'm pretty sure. Oxnard...
Is that not how it works? Like, don't you have to hit someone with the thing?
Yes, apparently. But
Like, it looks like a gun.
It does, but yeah, that's the gag I think that they're playing off of, is the fact that you'd think that it's going to shoot some sort of ray or beam or something, but it's just used as an object.
Distraction.
It's a bludgeoning tool.
Bludgeoning tool, exactly. Boy. Then says Oxnard, look, the mandulator turned mind back to normal. What?
What?
Did you notice that in there, that she misspeaks terribly and they just move right past it?
Yep. They do that later, too.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I have a little film I'd like to show you. Another instance of another film. Way to go, Doc. But the master is now destroying the house completely, and the mindulator is missing, but Oxnard knows where it is. It's with his pointy friends. Hopefully they have the knowledge to use it and the strength to throw it. At this point, Oxnard is on the phone with the military, and they're pulling out all the stops. This seems like we got reports that your house is a hotspot for extraterrestrial activity. Our house is a hotspot for extraterrestrial activity.
Sounds serious.
Sounds serious.
I lost. I lost it at this part. Like when he picked up as general warning, I couldn't stop.
That's a really, really good gag. This is general warning. A1 scramble alert. This is not a drill. If it's a drill, I'd tell you. Promise. Then we get that random live action military footage, and there's a little bit other like classic nature film footage that gets worked in there. Like, it gave me visions of sitting in a dark classroom as a second grader watching a projector showing some nature video from 1954. That's been at the school for 40 years already at this point. But the beavers, they have it under control, and they use the mindulator to bludgeon all the monsters. The military is fighting Keeler with that mix of animation and live action. The beavers see it as their opportunity and launch the mindulator up at the master, destroying the alien and putting everything back to normal. I got a gag that they used. I got a kick out of the fact that they used Daggett's tail as a slingshot of sorts, and he puts his hair down in the back, and it kind of like makes a chick when he puts it down and just shoots it off. I got a good kick out of that. Keeler's falling out of the sky, and the military's bombing their own base, right? Shoot the little missile thingies at it, make it go away.
Puts on the helmet, ducks down.
Yeah. More live action footage, and we see the final footage of General Warning. Send in more planes. The alien has been destroyed, and the Doc asking Toluca, how do your ankles feel? Well, they're broken, but they're better.
But they're better.
With Oxnard trying to wrap things up, the Doc interrupts and says something really bad happened. That's basically what happened, and that's all you really need to know. The Doc is right. Some bad things happened, and some other bad things happened. That explains the alien's powers, but what about your manservant? Manservant. It's Cervante, or Servant, Toluca. Toluca. That's a pretty good gag there, too. There was no man Cervante, and Dag gets to show his own film explaining everything, but we don't get to see it. Nonetheless, everyone else is really impressed with Daggett, so we are out of here, and the Beavers are back to trick-or-treating, just like that. I really enjoyed the confused narrator at the end. I thought he was pretty darn funny. It felt very Monty Python-esque to me.
Yeah.
The way the music kind of powered down and he really kind of went off on the alien object had become a victim of its own story. That makes absolutely no sense. So here's the part where I ask for some final opinions. We used to do, what was it? Not final opinions. We used to do, and then we switched it to final opinions because we didn't...
I don't remember. It seems like a distant memory.
It does. But yeah, we switched it to final opinions. Does anybody have any final opinions on?
I think for me, I was talking to Willis about this. I just like really enjoy this era of Nicktoons and just like the absurdity of it. I feel like it was like might have even been shaping of like my overall humor and the way you look at things. Love the Angry Beavers, and I think it's a really good episode. This is basically these guys' introduction to the show too, so I think it's a good one.
That's great.
Good one to show them.
We talked about that too a little bit, that if you were going to show somebody an Angry Beavers episode to get them into the show, that this one might be a good one to do.
Good standalone episode.
Yeah,
the pilot is too.
Yeah, absolutely. We did the pilot in the first Nicktoons block that we did, so that was a good one to go through also.
I mean, I appreciate. I really also liked the confused narrator at the end because I wanted to go back and like look at some things, and then I just felt like I didn't need to. Like I was like, thank you for
it's
for
not
making
supposed to make
like
sense.
it does. You're right. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. But I loved the gags like throughout the episode. There was a number that I felt were deeper references to something else, and then enough surface level ones to keep me as a person who's watching Angry Beavers for the first time pretty entertained.
That's good.
Yeah. You guys want to hear some more Oxnard Montalvo lines?
Oh, sure.
We wrote down our favorite lines in ours, so I wrote them down again for you guys. Anything is possible if it happens. And then with a little luck and things going in our favor, we'll find out something. And then possibly the best one after Toluca falls and he did not save her. He says, another moment and it would have been later.
That's my favorite one.
I earnestly had a lot of fun doing this. This seems really fun. I'm slightly jealous you guys thought of the idea before me. This is a really good time. And honestly, could see myself like playing along at home, especially if it was like a piece of media I was really into.
For sure.
Yeah, this is super fun to do with you guys. So if the
absolutely.
future comes and we are also video recording, we'd love to have you guys on a homework episode with us.
Yeah, that would be a
Or
lot of fun.
if you guys give us a topic, maybe we just come back and do another one.
That would be great.
Certainly, it was a good time. Well, it sounds like we're doing a little bit of rapping here. Unless you have any more gigs in that, any more things in those notebooks that we don't know about.
Well, we usually go into an email section at the end, so I wrote down some of the emails we've had to ask everybody here.
Oh, cool. Sure.
So, first one that I wrote down, Halloween themed, is when you were young enough to trick or treat, what did your Halloween consist of? As in, how many houses did you hit? Where did you go?
My answer is kind of interesting because it was, so you go out to Red Oak. That's this place on Stoltzman where that's like where all the like doctors and like president of MSU and stuff live. Mm-hmm. And then you come back to town, you leave your candy at home, and then you actually go to Travis and Willis's neighborhood over by Roosevelt, because that's a great neighborhood for candy. And if you show up with an empty bag, you say, "Oh, you poor kids, you didn't get any candy. Here you go." So I had it very planned out.
Yeah, I like that. That's
good.
A lot like mine, too. How about you, Will?
Cool. Yeah, well, I was thinking about how it was interesting because I'm over on Baker now, which is a very busy trick-or-treating neighborhood, I guess, has been for a minute.
One of the
Unless
best.
that wasn't that long ago. But
it was like 2 years ago I was out.
I used to go around my neighborhood as a kid, and like there was a couple kids in the neighborhood, but not a ton. So we'd do a lot, you'd walk down a lot of like dark driveways and knock, and you'd maybe get somebody, or like maybe they just wouldn't answer, or like they'd have a bowl out. So it's interesting being over there where like we can't, they're not even hardly ringing the doorbell because there's like kids waiting behind them.
Right.
So it's kind of different and fun. Yeah, just used to cruise around.
Do you feel like pressure to like really show up?
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, if you live in select neighborhoods in town, there is real pressure to bring it on Halloween.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Seems like it.
for sure, especially where you live.
Well,
I also feel like it's like all kids in your neighborhood.
Well, I have crazy ideas too, though, so I'm trying not to like overdo it on the first couple years.
Last year we had Jacob do like modular synth freestyling in the house I was playing outside. So it's just like this creepy like Stranger Things-esque music playing while the kids are coming up.
Nice.
That was sweet.
That all happened.
What about you, Jacob?
Oh my. Well, so I kind of had a weird childhood when it came to Halloween because my parents didn't really like Halloween, and my parents were perfect in every other way. Just want to put that out there because they're one of our 6 listeners. But I don't think that I got to go trick-or-treating until my sister made it, who was 3 years younger than me, like made it a real thing. I mean, it wasn't like specifically outlawed, but like it just wasn't encouraged, or like I don't think I got costumes. I have no specific memories of trick-or-treating. That goes to say I had no childhood whatsoever. But now I love it. Like, so, that's good. But yeah, I didn't really, I think I maybe went trick-or-treating like once or twice, and it was not in a real costume or anything like that.
I'll take you this year.
Yeah. What Zach said.
Zach knows all the best spots.
Yeah, I know the good spot.
He's like, he knows where the chumps on Baker live.
Yeah.
What about y'all?
Mine was a lot like Zach's, other than it wasn't in Mankato, but my dad kind of had the same idea with the empty bag trick. So he would take me to the trailer park because you got more houses, closer together, and I would have a little pail, but every 3-4 places I'd dump it into his garbage bag as he's 20 feet in the distance, and then everyone's, oh, you're just getting started here, and they just load you up with the candy.
Love it. What a good pops.
Always looking out for me. I don't like peanut butter, so he got to reap the benefits of getting all the peanut butter candy.
Yes.
He had a secret
hustle.
objective. Drew?
I lived in an enclosed neighborhood at the time where there was only one way out and one way in, and it was just a free-for-all every Halloween. And I'm not super proud of this moments, I should say, but every year you run across the neighborhood to the other side, and the same house would have the large bucket of please take one, and we would take more than one. I will just say it that way. We would take more than one every year.
Whoa.
Yeah, so that's my fond memories, I guess, of Halloween, just door to door with the pillowcase.
I thought I knew you. Drew.
Savage. Totally different look on him there. Next one I got here is, what were some snacks and beverages you could always count on at your grandparents' house growing up?
Ooh.
I'll get it started here. So I could always count on double stuffed Oreos, Nutri-Grain bars, and cereal that needed sugar, like the plain Corn Flakes and the plain Cheerios. And then for sure, she always had Royal Crown Cola on lockdown.
All right.
At RC.
Yeah, we always had A&W root beer and Pringles and unlimited butterscotch candy at Grandma Albertine's house. So those were the go-tos there.
For me, it was dark chocolate, hard red licorice, and it was the same cereal as Trav, but I actually really like that kind of cereal, so no sugar for me.
Can't say the same.
I was also raised by my grandparents, too, so, like, I feel like I have a lot of, like, old people tastes.
Sure. Nice.
Root beer barrels, Capri Sun, Kraft mac and cheese,
Oh, yeah.
and cream soda, maybe. Yep.
I don't think I ever had access to soda, but I do specifically. Well, not until I was like out of grade school, but I do specifically remember my grandmother having Andes There was a bowl of those, and then sometimes there was like the hard candy that no one would want.
Yeah.
But I think that's just because she wouldn't eat that. But the Andes were always there, like to the point where I would expect them. But that was kind of the only thing, apart from real whipped cream. I think that was a big thing, or that might just be something that my mother would bring to like that kind of family function. But I always remember that was like when there was like a special container that it had to get whipped up in, and that was always a big hit.
Nice.
I can imagine.
Next one here, I put, did you ever go hard trying to collect something as a kid, valuable or not?
I worked at Burger King, and when the Simpsons movie came out, I got all of those toys. And then I had them until like 2, maybe 3 years ago, and I sold them to Chris Dorn. For
Perfect.
Not much.
That's cool.
But I think I had some comic books too, but nothing. I have a lot of the Turok comic books. That's about it.
Oh, cool.
I was a real mediocre collector. I never got close to any kind of a full set on anything.
I had a bunch of Pokemon cards, but they got wrecked in a flood.
No, that's unfortunate.
Brutal.
I always went the sports card route for the most part, but when the Phantom Menace came out, I remember going to Taco Bell quite a bit to get all the different collectible little pogs and such that were available there when you bought specific meals, and I remember collecting that stuff pretty hard.
Yep, and I did the same thing except Phantom Menace themed, but all the Pepsi products had all the different pictures on there. Why I thought that was worth collecting, I don't know, but I was pumped for Star Wars, so I collected those pop cans.
Did you play Pogs? Like I played Pogs once, but that was like after I saw my brother's Pog collection, and then I was like, how do you play this? But like, were you like actually? It's like Pokemon. Like so many people never played Pokemon. I played Pokemon. And Magic, like when I was a kid, but I never messed with Pogs. I was just like a little bit too late for that.
No, for sure. Played Pogs all the time. That was probably sweet spot for me when that stuff came out big time. I still have my Pogs at home and my Slammer with the yin yang on it. So that was a pretty big deal. But yeah, it's it's a very simple game. You stack up the Pogs, you hit it with your Slammer, and if you flip them over, they're yours. That's all it is. Very simple game. And you play for keeps or you don't play for keeps. And that's it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I had Pogs, but I could not tell you how to play.
That's
until
it.
You just said
you
so.
know how to play now.
Last couple here are going to put us back into the video store. Are there any video games you remember renting a bunch as a kid?
I had a Flip It card, if you guys know what that is. It's you go to Best Buy and you buy one, and then for the whole summer you have unlimited video game rentals. So you but you just have to bring back the one you have.
Cool.
And specifically, I remember multiple times renting out that Two Towers video game. That game was so sick. There was one other one that I would rent all the time, but it's like a whole different era of video games. And then I would always rent all the like movie video games just because like I thought maybe one of them would be good. And the only one I remember kind of being fun was one of the Incredibles ones.
Oh, sure.
But yeah, I played. There's 2 summers where I probably played every single video game that came out specifically because of that Flip It card.
That's really cool.
Wish I had that.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Yeah, right. That's literally something you couldn't find a version of besides maybe, I guess it was kind of like GameFly. I guess
sure,
I don't know
sure.
if GameFly is even a thing still.
It is.
But it was awesome. It was like I got it for my birthday both those years, and I couldn't even. It was like a birthday present you get like a month from now when it comes out.
Right. That's a great birthday present.
Yeah. I don't think it was that expensive relatively either. It was like $75 or something like that.
The only time I was really having video games rented was I think N64 era. I don't ever remember. I had a PlayStation 2 after that, but I don't remember ever getting a rental for it. But for some reason, I have I remember these games as ones that I never owned. Army Men, Sarge's Heroes.
Love it.
Yeah.
That game is actually atrocious. Like, if you go back and play it, there's no camera controls at all.
With a lot of 64 games.
Yeah.
Yeah, they released like a kind of new version of it too.
That game, and then Buck Bumble, and also I really thought Buck Bumble was cool for some reason. I don't know why. And then there was I've been trying to figure out what game this was. It was like, it wasn't a Micro Machines game, but it was some kind of like racer game where you had really bright courses that you could like freestyle around in. And it was, I thought it was Hot Wheels or Micro Machines, but I know I rented it a bunch of times, and I just remember like driving in this like super colorful track with techno music, and it probably sucked, but I have really fond memories, and I can't remember the name.
Did you guys ever rent at Hollywood Video? I don't know if this was in your guys' hometowns. You could rent like a full N64, and then they would give you like Smash, Diddy Kong Racing, and a couple other games. That used to be, if someone did that for their birthday, that was like the littest birthday.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
I never rented games.
Oh, sure.
Not a gamer. So I put down Booger Man for Super Nintendo.
Oh, yeah.
Rented that one a lot. Drew had never heard of that, so
Nope.
we've played that
Yep.
since we did this question in the
a good game.
podcast. And Earthworm Jim 2.
Yeah. Both examples of awesome level design. Love the level design in both of those games.
What system are those for?
Super Nintendo, and then Sega Genesis too, I believe.
Yeah, that's what I played them on.
Yeah. Having some time to have thought on this question since we've actually answered this email before. Rad Racer for the Nintendo, for the NES, was one that I used to rent on repeat from Louis Drug. I remember that pretty fondly. And then if you go to the Hollywood Video era, circa 1998, it was definitely Metal Gear Solid, and that was a game that I rented so many times that one day, finally, my father said, "Here you go. Here it is. You can just have it because I'm done renting it." So
Nice.
yep. So it worked out in the end for me.
So
Those games were a trip when they came out. Sorry to interrupt
Oh,
you.
no.
All of those like things of like unplugging the controller and
yeah.
like all that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was.
That's pretty. So I never rented any of those, but I have a Raspberry Pi system now with probably all of those games on it, and so I've been exploring some of those old school ones, and it's a lot of fun.
Nice.
Metal Gear Solid is a classic. I highly recommend it.
Nice.
So this last question's pretty much the same. Are there any movies that you remember renting a bunch as a kid?
More than once.
I think the only one I can remember is the Pokemon movies. The first one in 2000.
Nice.
Never Ending Story for me. I used to rent that one quite a bit.
Yeah, I put video game movies like Double
Yeah.
Dragon and Street Fighter and the Mortal Kombat movies.
Yep.
They were pretty trash, but I liked them as a kid. The Three Ninjas movies.
That one popped into my head right before you said it.
Nice. And then I rented a lot of wrestling tapes when I was a kid to watch old Hulk Hogan and Undertaker and Stone Cold and all that stuff. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, shout out to Tum Tum from the Three Ninjas. He would just go, "Scramble!" Miss that little guy.
I can't remember anything that we rented on repeat or anything. And it was mostly the movies that I remember were renting at all were like my father liked science fiction a lot, so we'd watch all those and a lot of Star Trek together. But I don't know. I don't think we ever rented anything on repeat.
This officially just hit 1 hour and 6 minutes, which is our longest podcast.
Hopefully that's not a bad thing.
Yeah,
No, not at all.
hopefully
It means we're having a good time.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, hey, do we want to do plugs? Like, you want to tell everyone where to go so they can find your stuff and all the things that they need to do so they can become rabid Overdue Homework Podcast fans?
Yeah. You can email us at overduehomeworkpodcast@gmail.com. We're on Twitter at Overdue Homework and Instagram at Overdue Homework Podcast. And you can basically get us on anywhere you can podcast.
Yeah, if you have some sort of podcast app, you can find us.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, barring anything else, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for having us. It was super fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool to work with you, Travis, in this capacity, kind of bouncing our new projects after
Yeah.
each other. Me and Travis used to live together. That's a bit of lore that we didn't get to.
Yeah, and I actually went to grade school with Jake.
Yeah.
too, so.
Speaking of, you might have been I had a freaking birthday party the year I got my N64.
Yeah, I remember because
I got Mario Tennis.
yeah,
I wasn't gonna ask because like I didn't remember if you were there.
yeah.
Did I not invite Travis?
No, I was there. I remember that
That would
being.
have been legendary if you brought it up and he's like, "No, I didn't get an invite
yeah, I
for
heard
that
all
one."
about it. It was
Listening. Yeah. I didn't say we got along in grade school. No, but honestly, I remember that as like a super awesome birthday party. I remember, I don't know if I gave him a Rumble pack for the 64 or a memory card. I feel like I did the memory card, and it was after somebody gave you a Rumble pack. So I was like, damn it, I should have got the Rumble pack. But
I don't think I don't think I ever had her. Maybe I did. I don't remember. Mario. Yeah.
we remember different things, but
Yeah.
I was there.
I remember that clearly now, and thank you. I appreciate whatever you got me. I'm sure I used it to death.
Oh,
A
cool.
little late on that one, but
Well, yeah, thanks for joining us. This was cool. Is it over now
it's
then?
done. We're
Oh,
done.
okay,
This is
cool.
it. Bye.
It's over. Bye.
Luckily, we
Bye-bye.
caught you saying, "Is it over yet?" Right before the finish.
Well, that was it. What did you guys think? It was a whole heck of a lot of fun to do, like I said. And please go check out the Triple Falls guys. Like I said, you can find them on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you look at it on YouTube, you'll be able to see what Trav and I actually look like for once in your lives. So you can go check that out if you would like. Triple Falls. They were a lot of fun, and hopefully maybe we can have some of those dudes on our show as well. Thanks for listening. As always, please join us for the next exciting episode of the Overdue Homework Podcast.